this organization. And if you live within the bounds of Meridian Park, which is North 160th to North 185th on the south side of that, and Aurora to I-5, then you live within Meridian Park neighborhood. And if you live within those boundaries, then automatically you are part of the neighborhood association. And so this is the meeting, and this is the agenda for today. And the way that we're going to work it tonight is the first part of the meeting, we're just going to do a review of what we've done for the last 6 months, which is when we've had our the board members that we have currently now. And I'm just going to go over what we've done and also our financials. And then after that, then we're going to do our volunteer appreciation portion of the evening. And then after that, then we're going to ask for input from people about ideas for what we should do for the next 6 months of the year that you think would make a difference in our neighborhood. And we have money to spend, and how we might put that to good use for the neighborhood. So, has everybody helped themselves to refreshments that they would like to have? We have some savory things, some sweet things, and we also have beverages. We have lemonade, water, and decaf coffee, and we have half and half. So please, at any time, get up and help yourself to things. The restrooms are down the hall this way. Take a right, and then just keep walking until you see the signs. For the restroom.
We have them on this floor.
We do have restrooms on this floor.
How soon I forget?
So another thing I'd like to ask you to do is if you could turn to your neighbor on your left and your right, and some of you on the ends will not have the one on the left and the right, and introduce yourself and say what your cross streets are.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Ron. I'm on 180th and Ashworth.
I know you.
Yes, yes.
Hey.
Oh, no, see,
There you go.
I'm Krista. I'm in the Highland Terrace neighborhood.
Aha.
So
Emmy?
I know you well.
Yes.
I live on. I live on the. I live on Greenwood, right down by Shirley.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. So that intersection, that 160th intersection,
That's slightly weird intersection.
it was designed by a committee that never met. People just put it in.
Oh,
there.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
So I live south of them.
Same street.
Now we're-
Lived there since 1988.
88.
Yep. So I almost feel like I'm a
Oh,
native.
160th.
Yes,
I think first came here in 79.
Yeah.
But there's somebody else here from 1960.
That barrier.
We're
Well, I
behind.
should have brought it tonight. I found in the city, they had a little book that they wrote about how to get to know your city. And I found
And that's probably why they
it
bought
quite
it.
delightful.
sorry,
Things have changed a little bit since 1995.
Okay, so begin to wrap it up.
And we're
I think because it's
at
hard to see.
Corliss
it's
and
coming
172nd.
downhill or whatever, yeah.
Just down the street
So
from the
just
new
from last year.
early learning center.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're just looking
Yeah,
at
Been watching it.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's very nice. My little neighbor was the one that was the instigator behind getting the name
It was
changed
down
to
there.
Edwin Pratt.
All right.
Okay, so begin to wrap it up.
Okay.
Now, Tom, where's your house?
I'm just over on the other side of the baseball field from you.
Oh, you are? Oh, okay.
We walk down the hill and go around the baseball field often.
All right, so Walter, can I have the next slide, please?
Yes.
All right, Meridian Park neighborhood. There was another part of this slide that is missing, and what it says is, it's supposed to say Meridian Park Neighborhood Association. What do we do? What's our purpose?
Right.
And so, through the course of what we're going to go through here, we're going to tell you what it is that we did. And generally, the purpose is for us to promote community and create a safer neighborhood where people are connected to each other. So let's go to the next slide, Walter. So we have an event coming up, and that's one of the things that we do. And the events are geared towards having people gather together and meet each other, because we know that if we know each other, we know then who's supposed to be in the neighborhood and who's not supposed to be in the neighborhood. And so that helps us be safer. And it also is just more fun to know your neighbors.
Yeah.
So, this potluck is in, coordination with the, Meridian Park PTSA, which is the Parent Teacher Association, down at Meridian Park Elementary School. Does everybody know where the school is located?
Yes.
Yeah, does anybody not know where it's located?
Across from our house.
Yeah, 175th and Meridian.
Yeah.
Great. And so, this is gonna be on the 21st, on Martin Luther King Day, which is a day off for many people, not for everybody. My husband doesn't.
Hey,
Hey, there he
Hi.
is. Hey.
Hi.
Oh, hey,
yeah,
how are you?
So Christine, can you please, sign in and, also get a name tag there?
Oh, I can
Hi,
take
Connor.
this sign.
And there's snacks on the table and beverages and everything, please help yourself. And this is my husband Walter, if anybody doesn't know who this is. So, let's see, so a couple things why we picked this date. Number one is that for many people, it's a day that they have off, so we can start it earlier, and we're starting at 4 o'clock. And we're having it at the school because they have a cafetorium that is large enough for us to do whatever we like in there, pretty much. And we also wanted to partner with the school because we really feel as though that's a way to kind of get in and know some of the families more. We're also going to have crafts and activities for all ages. We're going to have letter writing to influential people. If you don't want to write a letter, you can draw a picture. We're also going to have a dove making craft activity, and we're going to have a scavenger hunt. And we ask that you bring a favorite dish to share with 6 neighbors. So we're hoping everybody can come and spread the word to your neighbors. So you all join us there. So, if you'd like to.
4 to 7.
4 to 7 p.m. It's not working? There we go, okay. So another thing that we did was this summer. So that last one is one where we're going to be, at the potluck, we're gonna be using a little bit of money that we get every year from the city. We have a $750 event budget. So we're gonna be renting the school, and that will cost us $250. So we'll be using some of that budget. But the city will provide us paper goods, glass, the glasses and the cutlery. So that will be something we won't have to pay for. And it's also greenware, it's compostable. So that'll be great. But a way that we make money is that we participate in the annual used book sale, which happens at the Swing and Summer Eve over at Cromwell Park. And what we do is we collect books. This year we collected 158 pieces of books and CDs and DVDs. And we contributed it with, I think it was 9 other neighborhoods, either 8 or 9 other neighborhoods. And then the proceeds get divvied up evenly between all of the participating neighborhood associations. And I will show you when we get to the financials how much money we received from that event. So if you'd like to go to the next slide, Walter. Another event that we co-sponsored was the outdoor movie night, and this took place over in Ballinger. Now, were you going to talk about this one, Tom? I think you were.
Okay. We had, I'm not sure exactly how many people this time. Sometimes years we've had 700. I guess this year we had 350, 400.
I think it was actually more like maybe 200, 250.
Oh, really?
But the smoke really
Yes,
impacted.
that's it,
From
true,
the wildfires
yeah.
really impacted things.
Also varies with which movie we pick. And so that varies. Now, one of the things we do is we go to people in town here, and there are remarkably more little businesses than you'd think here, especially along Aurora, and we pester them a little bit, and they give us a few bucks. Did you happen to get my little slides?
I did, but I didn't know how to incorporate it into it, and I don't know if it's possible. Maybe after we do this part, we can pull up the website
Okay.
on this.
Our colleagues at Ballinger nicely made little slides for each of the sort of ads, like a one-page little ad for the Aquaquip and all the others. And we got about 9 of them on the very front page of our website. So if you go to meridianpark.info, we promised them that we would give them 1 year's worth of exposure to our 1,500 or whatever it is hits per month. And we can at least say it's there, and I guess they like that. So it's a fun event. Before the thing starts, there's a popcorn stand, hot dogs or something that people sell, and a bunch of folks get out there and set up tents and do all kinds of cool stuff with quite a lot of effort, with a rent a truck and everything. And then there's a stand where kids like this come and make art things or whatever, and several other things. You can throw whatever the things are that year. And it's quite a hoot. Then it gets darker and darker and darker, and then they set up this big balloon kind of movie screen, which is huge, and it's all done with air. And so then you got all these people. One year, this last year, that's right, with the smoke was a problem, laying out on all these cute little blankets and all these nice little families with their little hot chocolate and whatever, and watching, what was it, the movie last time? The little machine.
Never-ending story.
Never-ending story, but then we had a previous year, the machine that went into outer space.
Wally.
The Wall-E, that was great.
And then we have Finding
Yeah.
Nemo.
Finding Nemo, yeah.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is one there.
Honey, yeah, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And so there was also remote control
Big
planes,
planes.
Robotics.
drones,
Yeah, yeah,
robotics.
yeah.
They had giant bubbles that kids were making.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that's generally kind of a real charming, innocent thing. We do have police officers there, but fortunately, apparently haven't needed them yet.
We have a raffle where we have local businesses donate things, and that's always a hit. The kids love to buy the raffle tickets. And what else do we have as part of that? It's just a real charming event, as Tom was saying, that the families like to come to. And it's going to move this year. It looks like, well, it's likely that it's going to move this year. It may move to North City. And I just found out, this is going to be a surprise to the board members, that it is still in play that it could come to Cromwell Park.
Oh.
That'd be nice.
So we shall see what happens there. Is there anything else you want to say about the event, Tom?
No, it's real nice. It's real nice.
This was the first year where we really got a lot of more sponsors from our neighborhood, which was
Yeah.
exciting. And Tom and I went out and started talking to people and found out that there was more interest than we thought in these neighborhood businesses supporting neighborhood projects. So that's really helpful for the future for other things. And Bill's going to talk about another project coming up where we will need supportive businesses. So do you want to go to the next thing? Okay, so in September we had this rant and rave meeting, and people came and they talked about things that they liked about Shoreline, and they also talked about things that were bothering them on their street and in their, general neighborhood area. And so one of the accomplishments there were several accomplishments that came out of that. One is that people got introduced to the customer response team, which is a 24-hour hotline here at the city, and they're very responsive to when people are parked illegally on the streets, or if there is a sign that is blocked that is an essential sign, if that means, the foliage needs trimming, or for example, or if there's speeding happening in your neighborhood and there's a real problem with it, all kinds of things, or if there's camping happening behind your house, where people are camping in parks or on public property.
I called them one time because of a dead possum that was up on the road. It smelled so bad I couldn't go near it.
Wow.
They took care of it.
Wow.
So there's all kinds of things that people can call a customer response team for, and you just call the city 801-2700. So another thing that came out of it was that there was a dangerous parking situation happening over on Meridian between 171st and 172nd, where the residents who were pulling out of both of those streets couldn't see oncoming traffic to pull out because, there was so much parking happening due to the construction of the children's center. And so, as a representative of the neighborhood, I went to the traffic engineer and I told her about the situation. And she actually came out, took a look at, and they revised the whole parking in that area and put up signs, and now it's no longer a problem. So that is a very real possibility for people who are having trouble with parking. And some of the other neighbors too reported back to me that they called the customer response team and had them address code violations where people had been parking things in front of their house, or had multiple cars in areas where they shouldn't be. And so those situations were cleared up. So it was very productive. So let's go to the next one. Okay, I'm gonna introduce Bill Franklin now, who is a member-at-large board member and has a number of different projects that he's been working on for our Meridian Park neighborhood. So, Bill, if you want to take it away.
Sure.
And there, he's got something up here, and we have 2 slides for him as well.
So I could start out by explaining that I'm also on the Parks Board here in town, and so I've been just very interested in our parks. Now we have, in our neighborhood, we actually have 5.
Yeah, well, nice.
Pardon me?
I'm sorry, that just came out, that's so nice.
Here we have 5.
Yes, it's very nice.
Yeah, but a couple of them need a lot of work. And I don't know if everyone knows where all 5 parks are, but of course we have Cromwell. Most people know that one because it's fairly new and nice. Hamlin's not in our neighborhood.
Really? Oh, okay, never mind.
A little bit south of Cromwell is Ronald Bog.
Yeah.
So Ronald Bog is a nice park. It's the only park we have that actually has dedicated parking for the
Yeah.
park, even though it's not very convenient parking. We have, just south of Ronald Bog, we have a park called James Keogh, which most people don't even know it's there because it's hidden and you can't access it with a car. It's right by the freeway. We have another small park called Meridian Park, which used to be just a wetland, and Earth Corps went in a few years ago and put in that loop trail and a little bridge that goes across the wetland pond. So that's very nice. And then our 5th park is called Darnell Park. And I don't live right next to it, but it's about a couple blocks away from, this is my daughter Emily. So we live a couple blocks from this park called Darnell. And so when I first moved there, I found it on a map, but when I walked up to it, you couldn't even get into that park. Has anyone here been there? I know Julie. Yeah. So you don't even know it's a park, really. I mean, it's right next to that interurban trail. And up until just a couple years ago, it didn't even have a sign. And so it was just, it looked like the trail went right by someone's backyard. And so I got very interested, and this goes back about 5 or 6 years ago. I got very interested in trying to fix up that park and make it a nicer park. And so I started out by just calling the Parks Department and asking them about it, and it didn't sound like they really even knew where the park was. You know, it's clearly sort of a forgotten park. And so that sort of gave me some energy to join the Parks Board. And so I did that, and I've been really trying to be an advocate for our neighborhood with our parks. And so the first thing we did was we actually got a sign. So now we have one of the standard blue city park signs out in front by the benches. And then just this last November, it was the first week in November, I think it was the first Saturday, we had a volunteer day for this Arbor Day celebration. And so the city contracted with Earth Corps to provide planting material and tools and basically organize the event. And so we had probably a dozen or so. Julie and her husband Lemmy was there.
At least a dozen.
Sorry?
At least dozen.
At least a dozen.
Yeah.
And it was raining. really hard all day. And so I know that there were quite a few more people that actually signed up for it that just didn't show up because the sign-in list was pretty long.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was a wet, rainy day all day. But, so what we did is we actually, I can show you, do we have
Do you wanna do the
Do we
next
have
slide?
another,
Oh, yeah.
aerial? Okay, so I can try to show you here.
Oh, good.
How
So-
big is it?
Sorry,
How big is it?
how
large
big is the
it?
park? It's almost an acre. It's,
Oh, okay. That's not
it's
bad.
actually 8/10 of an acre. And so it's bigger than you might think, but it's so, overgrown along here, you can't even see in there. As you come by the trail, here are the benches, here's the sign.
You might
And
point
then
out,
it's just really dense understory and trees.
you might point out that Aurora is just to the left there.
Aurora's here, Aquaquip is right up here on the corner. This is 165th.
Yeah.
Aurora, Aquaquip, and then this is the parking behind Aquaquip. So 160th is down here. And, yeah, so it's a fairly large public park that is completely inaccessible, completely overgrown, completely forgotten, really. So, anyway, we've been trying, I went to the city council meeting a couple weeks in a row to bring up the fact that it needs some attention. And, we had some other board members, show up as well and provide some support for that. So, the next thing that came along was this Arbor Day. So, because we couldn't really tackle the whole park, Earth Corps, they designated just sort of this area in front and then this area in here. And so we spent the whole day, the first half of the day, we dug up all the blackberry and the fruit shrubs where we wanted to replant new tree because blackberries completely take over.
Yeah.
So we dug all that up for the first half of the day. Second half of the day is we just planted little trees. Various, we had hemlock, cedar, what else? Shore pine.
Yeah, rose is the small one is different kind of rose.
So sort of a variety of stuff. So we,
Where do we get the trees from?
Earth Corps
Oh, yeah, brought them.
and
Okay,
the city contracted with Earth Corps.
great.
So when we arrived, they were there. And quite a few, like, I wanna say, I don't know, over 100 probably.
Wow.
Trees and plants and things, yeah. Yes.
How'd they do this summer with that? Did someone go back in and water them?
Well, so it just happened in November.
Right.
And
Oh, this past November, okay.
Yeah,
I'm seeing
the very next meeting with the parks, I brought it up to Eric, our parks director, and Lynn, and I said, I think that they need some water. And we have this storm channel running through here, but there's not enough water. I said I would volunteer to like carry buckets of water to water them, like once a week or something, but there's not enough water. So I said, if you can like provide a tank of water or something, I'd be happy to carry buckets, and nothing really happened. And so I think the thought is because it's winter, they will get enough rain. But the problem is it's such dense canopy of trees here that the stuff we planted is really getting much rain. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they'll make it to spring, and so.
Have you seen, I don't know if it's accessible, but sometimes around new trees, there's like these bags that are full of water and they
Yes,
just
yeah.
gradually let the water go down into the ground.
And I know that they do that for some of the significant park trees.
Mm-hmm.
All of these, I don't know, it would take like, probably like 100 or
Mhm.
150 of those things, so they didn't volunteer to do anything like that. And there's no water, there's no access to water, so so that's unfortunate, but hopefully they'll survive the sea. So this plan here is a plan that I put together based on, I think it goes back, when did we visit the park as a board? It was probably a year and a half ago.
At least,
And so we walked through, we talked about some things, and I'm an architect, and going back to architecture school and studying urban planning and parks, I know that a fundamental element of a successful park is having multiple entrances and exits so that you don't feel unsafe when you're in the park. Now, here in Shoreline, we have several of these pocket parks that are sort of dead-end parks. And so that's what this one suffers from. You really only have access here, completely surrounded on the other three sides by private property. So right now, there's just sort of a main trail that comes down in here, and it's not even a real trail, it's just people walking through and kind of created a trail. You get down in there, and then if other people come in, you kind of feel like, I don't know how to get out. So we put together this plan, and the basic idea is that we create a new, very distinct loop pathway. So we sort of create two entry points, one here and one here, of course. And then that trail would wind through, cross over this swale here, and come out over here. And then look for some other opportunities, because it's a fairly large park, to do some other things too. So there's this mound here that we think could be maybe a nice overlook, and maybe we need some access along the water here, and then just generally clean it up and, you know, restore some sight lines into the park so it feels safe. So I put this plan together, sent it over to the Parks Department, and so we're trying to, you know, keep this in front of them. And when we were out there doing this restoration in November, Earth Corps did say that they are in continuing discussions with Kirk, who's a maintenance supervisor, about doing something else this coming year to get a little bit farther down the road to this plan. So I don't know, it's hard to see some of the elements here, but there's an existing concrete walk here that comes out to Aurora. So there's a credit union right here. I can't remember what it's called. Sound credit union. So this sidewalk comes right up to Aurora. So this Aurora sidewalk is here. You can take this sidewalk, and then the sidewalk just stops. And then this is 100 feet wide. This is actually owned by Seattle City Light. That whole interurban alignment is 100 feet wide. And it just occurred to me that if we could put some sort of identity signage up here, some kind of small Darnell Park sign or whatever, people could know it's there.
Yeah.
You know, cross over the trail, and then there it is. I am showing like a small parking area, but I don't think that's something that will really materialize. It was just an idea, because there's already a vehicle gate up there. If anyone has driven by 165th, you may have noticed there's a big iron gate that's just locked, and it has those big concrete blocks up there. So there is access already if we wanted some parking. But basically the idea is just create this bike loop trail. It'd be a nice sort of departure. As you're riding along, you just detour, go through, come back out. And then I guess, Cynthia, do you want me to talk about the other, so.
I was wondering if we could actually put that in the future, when we're talking about future stuff.
I'll talk about it then.
Bill has a wonderful project he's working on for this coming year, I believe. So great, let's move to the next one. Okay, so let's look at our financials here. Starting in June, you can see what our balances were. We had $93.65 in our savings and $178.04 in our checking. And I was the treasurer, and so I transferred it over the account to, or the main person who works with the account. I transferred that over to Julie, who is our treasurer. Could you stand up, Julie, so everybody can see who you are? And so then you can see that there wasn't really much happening for a little while. I did spend some money on, for volunteer food. We feed our volunteers at the outdoor movie night, which we have wonderful volunteers. Tom is a volunteer at the outdoor movie night, and Julie and Limming volunteers at the outdoor movie night, and we'll talk more about that soon. However, if you look further down at the 9/4/18, you'll see that that was reimbursed. And the amount of the food was taken out of the total revenue before we split up the funds from the income for outdoor movie night. So then it just goes on for a little bit, seeing, you know, that we were receiving interest on our money, but not much was happening. And then when we get to the beginning of September, you'll see that we took in $138.29, which was our share of the book sales. Now, considering that the books only sell for 50 cents a piece at the book sale, and the money was divided by, I believe, at least 9 shares, 9 neighborhoods. That's pretty good, $139.29. So then, if you look at the 18th, that was, I spent money at Fred Meyer and Trader Joe's for our rant and rave meeting. We had a pie and coffee rant and rave meeting, and I baked some pies, and we had whipped cream and coffee. And then for a little while, we just had some interest there. And then if you'd like to go to the next slide, Walter. Go back one, because I see that. Oops. Okay, so at the end of the month in September, we had $93.68 in our savings, and we had $267.47 in our checking, because we had added the $138.29. Okay, let's go to the next one. So it looks like that first section is a rerun of what we had on the previous page. Then we get down to 10/11/18. We had $401.75, which was our income from the outdoor movie night.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big one.
And the way that that works is that we don't charge an admission price. What we do is we ask our sponsors to pay at least $100 to be a sponsor, and we had a number of different sponsors that paid at the $100 level from our neighborhood and from the other neighborhood of Ballinger. And then we also had Dr. Tim Horton from our neighborhood here, who's a chiropractor, did $150, and he's always very supportive of our events here. And then there were some sponsors who did in-kind donations, and you can see that on the website. And then you see we have some interest paid to the account, and that goes along to beginning of December. And then I took the can that's over here on the green can, which had been accumulating money since we had started our tour of duty in June, and there was $20.60 in there, and I turned that over to the treasurer, and she deposited that, and so we ended up with the balance of $516 in our savings, $267.50 in our checking, with a total of $783.64 that we have in our account right now, and there might be a little interest on that. So that's how we've spent our money, and that's how much money we have right now. And in addition to that, we will have another $500 in our events budget from the city. that we can use. Although we may use some of it, for this MLK, just miscellaneous things for some signage and maybe tape and that kind of thing. So that's it. Does anybody have any questions about the financials? Okay. And then the other way that we can get revenue in the coming year for projects is by getting sponsors from our neighborhood businesses. Okay, can you go to the next one? Yeah, Krista?
So, since I'm not a member, I don't know if can I ask a question?
Yes,
about that?
absolutely.
So VECU doesn't charge you at all for any of your stuff?
No.
For your,
Well, we don't have checks. We don't have actual checks that we don't order checks in a checkbook. We're able to get 4 checks at a time to write out, printed checks if we want
Right.
that.
Mhm.
And we use a debit card for most of our transactions when we're buying things.
Okay.
And BECU is wonderful. They don't charge us any sort of, we don't have to have a minimum in our account, and they don't charge us any fees.
Okay. Good to know.
Any other questions? No? Okay, let's move on. All right, here is our, the way to contact us. And one thing that's missing up there that I wanted to show people is that we do have monthly meetings on the 3rd Tuesday of the month, which this is. And I'm gonna show over here, we have these little flyers right here.
There we go. Smile into the camera, there we go, okay,
You got it?
got it.
Okay. So we have a Facebook page, and that is where we post most of our upcoming events and do our promotions of, hey, come on down. And then we have a website where we have more of our static things, and we post some photos of what's happened.
And videos going
And
back now
video,
quite a
and we
while.
also have, exactly, thank you for reminding me, Tom. So Tom has been wonderful, and he's been videotaping our meetings for people who can't make it to the meeting in person. You can look in the archives and see what's happened there. And then if you want to contact us, we have our email, and we also send out email blasts to people to let them know what's going on. And here is our current leadership. And I missed one of the things here for Bill Franklin. He also got another project in the works right now that he's going to talk about, and I don't have that up there. So he will tell you about that. We've got myself, we've got Tom Karsten. Want to stand up there, Tom, and everybody look at you? Everybody see you? Okay. And we need a secretary.
Shucks.
So the way that we're working it right now is that we're recording our meetings. There's an app for the phone that can be used for recording meetings. And then after that, just doing a synopsis of inscribing that. So we would love to have someone step up and be the secretary for Meridian Park Neighborhood Association, and we would love to help you figure out how to do it as easily as possible, because right now I'm the acting secretary, but I wear a lot of hats, and it would be wonderful to just give that hat to someone else who would love to do it. And then we have Julie as a treasurer, and Bill and Kate. Beck is not here, but she is a member at large and also our special events committee lead who planned the potluck. And our poster designer is Liz Spy, and she is not a board member per se, but she is like a permanent member who is contributing all the time doing posters. And Maren Wynn, who is also the organizer of Solar Fest, has been doing some consulting with me to support just getting things up off the ground with having new leadership. And everyone is welcome to join in. We'd love to have you contribute your gifts and talents, doing what you love to do, to be part of the neighborhood organization. So if you want to go to the next one. All right, now it's time for volunteer appreciation. Okay. Who's up? That's right.
Uh-oh.
I would first like to recognize our officers. And I'm wondering, Tom, if you could come up here.
Wow, shucks.
Well, actually, you know what, I wanted to, I'm new to this, so I'm just gonna say that. I'm new to this, and this has been an area that has been a weakness of mine, appreciating volunteers, because I have always been a person who just kind of puts my head down and just works. And I always expect everybody to be just working hard beside me. And I forget sometimes that we're volunteers. And so I read something today, and I'm also a person that tends to express myself through visual art rather than writing. But I read something today that expressed what it is that I really think about volunteering and you all. So what it is that life is not measured by the number of breaths that we take, but the number of moments that take our breath away. And so I'm looking around at this room, and every one of you has a different story, and that you all come from different backgrounds. You have lots of different life experiences, but you all have one thing in common, and that is that you have your willingness to give your time to other people. And I really would love to hear tonight just a little bit from each of you about why it is that you give your time, what it is that motivates you to give your time. It doesn't have to be long, and it can be about what it is that you love to do and how you work that into giving your time through Meridian Park Neighborhood Association. But I want to say that I am really, when I stand back and I put my head up, I'm really humbled by how generous everybody is with giving. And that you do it just with such love and such kindness. I just thank you all so very much. So with that, let's start again. So Tom, come on over here. So Tom, how long have you been Vice President of Meridian Park Neighborhood Association?
I moved back to Shoreline in 2014, soon after that.
Okay, and it's 2019 now.
How the time flies.
Yes. All right. Well,
I
Tom,
first came to Shoreline, however, in 1979, when I was in diapers, of course.
Well, Tom, I just want to really acknowledge you for being a real surreal rock in Meridian Park Neighborhood Association. Just being steady, showing up, and being enthusiastic about all of the projects that we've had going. And being, coming to meetings and just being cheery and full of ideas.
Oldest of four kids, can't help it. I get this too? Okay, thanks. Ooh, there's some cool.
All right. So Julie? So what these are succulents, and they are hens and chicks. And I chose them because they are a plant that is very resilient. They will grow in like the worst circumstances. And they also multiply. And your work as volunteers has touched hundreds, if not thousands of people here in Shoreline. And your kindness is amazing. Not everybody is someone who wakes up and says, I want to do something for somebody else today. And I just want to thank you so much for being that kind of person. And Julie, so what is it that made you say you wanted to volunteer?
Because we moved here and we have time, yeah, we just can, use our time for whoever, wherever, we can. I think it's good if you have this kind of, ability, yeah, you should use it.
Well, Julie has volunteered with every single thing that we had, project that we've had with Meridian Park Neighborhood Association. With the book sale, she gathered books with me and organized all of that, and you worked at the book sale, and you worked at outdoor movie night. You and Lemming did the fishing booth where kids would
Yeah, again.
they would put their grabber inside this hole where they didn't know it was going. It looked like it was dragon's mouth. And Julie and Lemming were on the other side putting little toys in the grabber's mouth.
Yeah, it's hard for some people, kids can actually grab that. We tried so hard, help.
And the smiles on their faces, they were laughing.
We
so
enjoy.
much. Yeah.
Enjoy.
Anyway, and
Thank you.
you've taken on being the treasurer for Meridian Park and done such a great job with our spreadsheet and keeping track of everything. So really appreciate it so much. Thank you
very
so
much.
much. All right. Christine, I know you want to get Connor home to.
He's enjoying his video games.
So Christine is someone who volunteered for Somerset Arts Festival the last year that we had it.
Yes.
And that was a festival that happened over in Ronald Bog Park. That was a one-day arts festival. And Christine brought us into the 21st century by doing Twitter.
I don't know how effective it was.
But helping us promote things. And that was really amazing.
And Cynthia was the first and only person to welcome me into the neighborhood.
Oh.
And she did so by asking me to volunteer at Somerset Arts Festival. So I appreciate your willingness to reach out to new folks too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Christine.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys. Thank you for the beautiful succulent.
Someday in the future, as we recall, you came from Kentucky.
I did, yeah.
It would be very interesting to hear your response to here compared to where you came from.
It's more expensive. Just leave it at that. That's awesome.
So, Libby?
Yes.
So these plants can be either on your desk or they can be replanted and put in your garden. They want to have a kind of rocky, sandy soil. And they also, if you're going to have them on your desk, they have been potted and completely watered today. So please do not water them for at least a week, if not longer.
So they're inside or outside? Or
These-
both?
Yeah, these, you can have them inside or outside.
Oh.
Okay, so Lemmy.
Yeah.
So what prompted you to, besides the fact that I chased you down and I asked you to do this, what prompted you to volunteer and then volunteer again?
One thing that is my wife chased me down. Second is, I really like this community, and it really is fun to play with kids, to work with neighbors together. So, yeah, that's really a lot of fun. Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you giving your time and your energy to us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, and I'm really excited. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Michelle. So Michelle also participated in Somerset Arts Festival, and she did several things. She worked at the Nature Crowns booth, where we had paper crowns that then pieces of greenery and flowers were then stapled to, and adults and children just loved it.
Yeah,
There were
they were
people
awesome.
running all over the Ronald Bog, everybody had them. It was wonderful. And then you also baked cookies,
Yeah.
and
Some
everybody,
cookies.
and those were for the volunteers,
Uh-huh.
and everybody loved those.
And I came to Solar Fest and helped with cleanup, and I helped eat pizza.
So what prompts you to volunteer?
I retired about a year ago, and I just decided that it would be a good way to spend my time and stay involved with doing things, productive things. I love the festivals, and I love the events, and I love the connections, and so I just want to do my part to help with that. And as Lenny said, it's just fun. It's fun to work with groups and accomplish things.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for giving your time and
You're welcome.
everything to everybody. Right. Roz, you want to come on over? All right, Roz. Well, thank you for getting up also, because I know that.
Had a knee replacement.
Yes, Roz had a knee replacement, and I really appreciate you coming over
Yeah.
because you also have long days too.
Yeah.
So Roz, you just have been like an amazing volunteer with all of the computer work that you've done and all of the organizational work that you've done, both for Somerset Arts Festival and also for Solar Fest. And with such great cheer. There were times when I was just really felt overwhelmed with Somerset Arts Festival, and you came in there with your can-do attitude and also with your big smiles and just making jokes. And it just makes a huge difference to work with people who just have so much joy.
Well, thank you. I appreciate meeting you too, because she came to one of our neighborhood national nights outs and recruited me. So she's good about recruiting people, you know. And it just kind of escalated from there, and then.
So besides the fact that I chased you down, what made you say yes?
Just the fact that you did, I couldn't say no to you. I mean, I started as block watch captain,
That's
so I was
right,
kind of
you're-
knew my neighbors.
You're a block watch
And I was
captain.
kind of already interacting with people, and I loved interacting with people, and just the fact that you came and asked me, that was enough for me to want to do it, so.
So,
Just another connection, meeting more people.
yes, exactly. So, before it comes across, I'm like this, person that's running across town
No,
asking
you do it
everyone
nicely.
what I wanted to say is that Roz, I just wanna highlight that Roz is a block watch captain, and she also is the one who has been, hosting the, National Night Out party on her block. And so, I don't know if you're still doing it, but at the time you were doing it.
I did it for like 4 years, or, yeah.
Yes, and there was a large turnout. And so that's a wonderful way to really be of service to your neighbors, and I thank you very much for doing
Oh,
that.
sure.
For that adds to the safety of our whole city. So, thank you
Thank
so
you,
much, Roz.
Cynthia.
It's really been wonderful to be volunteering with you.
Yeah, you too, and to keep the friendship going.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Krista, you wanna come up? All right, so Krista is someone who designs incredible labyrinths. And she designed labyrinths for Somerset Arts Festival. And what she did was she brought all kinds of materials with her.
Really fun.
Colored bottles, cloths, fabrics, What else did you bring
We
with
had
you?
banners, actually I had a friend that had, these great banners, so we set it up so that it was back in an area where you could go and, you know, have kind of a quiet experience while you were doing the Somerset thing. It was just really, it was great, it was really fun. It's really fun, and it was fun to play with you. So I had gone the first event and really liked it, and I contacted you and said, I really want to help with the next one, and you were very appreciative, and then let me play with putting the labyrinth together, and it was really fun to watch the kids, particularly with the labyrinth, because, you know, they walk with it in a tent, it's not a maze, and there was always, one or two people that just, transformed while you're in a labyrinth. You walk in and you walk out, and there was one little boy, I think, who did it 20 times, but he didn't do it quickly. He would go and come back and go and come back, and it was just really, I just felt like it was really fun. So I still think that Shoreline needs a labyrinth in every one of their parks. It's been fun.
Yeah, well, this is just a wonderful example of people taking what it is that they love and love to do, and bringing that and contributing that to the neighborhood.
I was still hoping that you were gonna give me that big turtle.
Oh, it's in our backyard, you
I
just
just-
come on
Yeah,
over and
yeah,
get it.
come and
I
get
loved
it.
it. I thought if I, you know, one of these years, I just loved it. It was very fun.
Come get it.
Okay.
Okay, so, Krista, thank you so very much, and you completely upgraded the labyrinth experience, because I will tell you that the first labyrinth that we had at Somerset Arts Festival was a whole bunch of braided fabric that I made, that was tied in knots to make this very, very long rope. And Krista completely took it from, you know, just like a thrift store experience to like Saks Fifth Avenue.
Well, thank you. It was very fun, and I just appreciated it. So, thank you. And Highland Terrace, which is over the river and through the woods.
Yeah.
Visit us sometimes. But this is fun. I appreciate you letting me come to your meeting. The Kit Kat bars have been fabulous.
Okay, Bill, will you join us up front here? Great. I am ready. So I have for you, I've got the pen and the chick. Thank you.
And the baby on the side.
Yeah, it's the chick. So, Bill, I just want to say thank you so very much for all of the time that you give to us, on top of all of the time that you give to the entire city of Shoreline with your participation on the aquatics board, planning board, and the parks tree board. So it's amazing that you're doing all of that, and really appreciate all the work that you put into the Darnell Park project.
Thank you.
Do you want to say anything about what motivates you to contribute all of this? Can I step over here so people can see? Are you?
I got him.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure, I just like to get back. So, it's hard to say no when there's so many opportunities, just jump in.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
And we're all right, and last but not least, my husband.
Oh,
Yeah.
Walter.
Now, honey, all of these plants came from our garden. So we're gonna enjoy them at home.
yes.
You just have been like the silent, support that makes it possible for me to be able to, do my volunteer work. And so you're the volunteer that people don't really see and know about, but you give so much to our neighborhood. All of the hauling that you do, all of the brainstorming that you do with me, all of the, and you're so patient. And all of the calming me down when I get nervous about whether I'm gonna do it right. You're just amazing. And all of the work that you did with Somerset Arts Festival was just incredible, your partnership with that. So, I don't know how to express to everybody just everything you've done, but you know what you've done. Do you want to share it all, your experience with Somerset, because you've shared it with me as to what you got out of it. Do you want to?
Well, it was just, gave me a lot of joy to create it with you. Got to be creative in doing it. So.
And you were telling me about seeing all the children and the adults.
Oh yeah, that was great. Especially that last year's. There were so many happy children running around the park. It was just, just all the different activities and all the music.
Do we estimate that in that one we had about 700 people there?
Possibly 600 to 700 maybe.
Yeah, it was a really good turnout that last year.
Anyway, thank you so much for everything.
Here, here.
All right, well, let's get to brainstorming.
I think we have to recognize you.
Yeah.
I know you can't
Yeah.
recognize yourself so much, but
Yeah.
it's obvious that you're at the center of everything.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, that concludes this segment of volunteer appreciation, but I am committed that we have more in the future, for sure. So do you want to, Bill, would you like to come up now and do the project, talk about the project that you're working on for the coming year?
So I don't have a good image for the screen, but I can show everyone on here. Well, for one thing, I should mention that we're also going to be working on developing this. We're going to look for opportunities that we can do ourselves rather than rely on the city. So we're going to look at trying to get a grant to do this little footbridge, and then some of the businesses here in town have expressed some interest in partnering with us financially to try to do some of these things. So there will be ongoing efforts in the park itself, designing the bridge, helping to construct that, things like that. But completely separate from that, I wanted to talk about this idea of, I don't know if everyone can see this. Anyone see this? It says Meridian Park neighborhood here. The idea is that we would look for locations along the interurban trail, not just in front of the park, but we have quite a bit of the trail that runs through our neighborhood, all the way from, crosses over at 160th there and goes all the way up to 185th. And so we have a lot of opportunities where we can create some identity for a neighborhood on the trail. And so the idea is that we would create these giant letter outlines on the trail itself. And I mean big, like one letter would be like the size of this space. We would create outlines that say Meridian Park neighborhood. And then we would look for volunteers in our neighborhood, families, people that are just really interested in art, to come out and volunteer to take a letter and then paint it however they might want. They might, whatever they can think of, any kind, images, colors, any graphic that they want. They adopt a letter and they come out and we just spend the day or a weekend coloring in these letters. And it would be so big, you would see it from, Google Earth areas. And I'm showing it here as a concept in front of the park.
Yeah.
But there would be other opportunities, and maybe we start one spot and see how it goes, and then maybe we do the next block or the next block some of the time. Yes?
Please color and E if there's.
Oh, yes, okay. We'll talk about that later. So, yeah, so that's the idea, and then, so we can come, and I've come up with a plan to actually create the outline. So we'll go to, we have a painting, I don't know if we have paint stores in our neighborhood, but we have some here in Shoreline. They might step up and, donate some paint.
Do we have any idea what the traffic count on that trail is by day or whatever?
Not
I'm sure it
sure.
varies by day.
Oh, by the way, I did bring this up at one of our park board meetings, just to throw it out there and see, what they thought. It was really well received. Everyone thought it was really interesting. And then they started talking about how like Echo Lake might wanna take it on and do part of the trail that goes through there as well, so.
That'd be nice.
So that's something that we want to see if we can pull that together for sometime this summer. Yes.
Yeah, if you don't need, exactly what color, I think a lot of people right now may have some leftovers, in a home. You just bring over and put
True.
somewhere,
We can put a call out.
Yeah.
Because
Donation of
Yeah,
paint.
we
any
have-
color. Like I could just envision having just, 50 different paint colors and people just grab what they want.
So would you need like concrete paint or latex
Well,
or what kind of paint?
It's probably not gonna last forever.
Right.
I mean, we could use like actual traffic marking paint, but I don't know that you can really get that in different colors. When I watched the artist do the mural over by the Sears, I don't know, she didn't seem to have any like special paint that she would seem to be using, but we can look into it and see if we should use something in particular. But otherwise, it may fade after a few years. I don't know.
With regard to this trail, but more generally, Cynthia and I were at maybe some of the others were here too, downstairs at the con meeting. I think it was maybe last week or so. And they had the people who are developing the Paceline Apartments, developed the Malmo Apartments, and the other one where the Roller City, Rat City people are gonna be. That's gonna be another couple hundred apartment units, you may know, 7, 8 stories tall. And the Paceline guy was saying that they specifically decided to orient the entire building right onto this trail. So what you see driving by Aurora is just a bunch of front, but it's mostly aimed at the back. And they see this trail as a phenomenal amenity. And they're gonna have workout rooms and at the other one. And they're gonna ask the neighborhood to come in. And if you, instead of going to Starbucks to work on your computer, they want you to come into the Paceline place where they have like a little, work a third place thing. And I thought that was quite amazing. So they have a very strong interest in keeping this kind of healthy, although when I was talking to the Aquacrypt lady about outdoor movie night money, she was saying, I'm for it because frankly, I have bums sleeping on the back of my porch here at the Aquacrypt thing. And we know that there was anyway, needles in the park and all that sort of thing. So we want to try to address that, and I hope the Paceline people will help with all that. So there's lots of attention on that little trail.
It just seemed to me that we have this amazing arterial that goes right through our neighborhood. It'd be fun to leverage that and create an identity. When I was over in Wallingford a couple years ago, and one of the intersections, the neighborhood has painted this like gigantic ladybug mural.
Yes, it's over by,
Do you know?
yeah. Mhm.
And so I was thinking, wow, why don't we do something like that? It'd be really interesting. So, what do you guys think about that
So the
idea?
ladybug's a little distracting to ride over here, not really sure, if you're trying to see it, drive over, it's a little distracting, but it's pretty cool.
What do you all think about this idea
That's
of
great.
everyone adopting a letter and
I
painting
think
it
that's
however they
cool,
might like?
especially if they can design it the way they want to.
Yeah. So we would just have an outline and then it's like free game. So, okay, well, stay tuned. Yeah.
And I would put along there when you're all done is to put some kind of little notation up on it so that people walking along know who did that. So somebody doesn't become inspired to, I don't know, take their own color of paint, paint maybe a different color. So you might say who, what, when, and where in 2019 this was done by the neighbors of the, Reading Park Association. so people don't think it was just done by the city, done by magic. And that way, as people are walking along, you get some kudos afterwards as well. And it also gives you an idea of when it was done, so I'm thinking 5 years from now, you'll probably be back painted.
Right. Okay. Well, stay tuned. Well, I think we're going to try to see if we can make this happen this summer. So anyway.
Would you charge people like $5 or $10 donation to the association to kind of buy or champion a letter?
It's
Sponsor.
Sponsor.
if everyone thinks we should do that, I don't know. I mean, I was thinking it would be something that it would just be a free, like, sign up and do it, but it could be a fundraiser as well, if there's interest in that.
If the price point's pretty low, I would be fine, $10.
Yeah.
That would be your lunch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of buying a letter.
That's a good idea. Excellent idea.
Yeah.
Also, we could have some activities, like a kids activity, and the winners have the right to claim a letter.
I'm sorry?
Like
winners?
kids activities, the winners have the right. Okay,
Right.
instead of donate $10, the winners of the kids activities can claim a letter out of it.
Sure.
Adopt.
Adopt a letter.
Adopt a
They
letter.
have the right.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll be fun. So.
The Aquaclip lady said she'd easily volunteer to have some of their barbecue equipment behind her shop there to be feeding oceans and, crowds of people working desperately on all this. She seemed to be all for it.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you.
Great.
Good idea.
Thank you very much, Bill. So, got about 9 minutes till this is supposed to be officially over. The hope tonight also was that we were going to do a little brainstorming for the future about things we might do in the new year here with our time and our money from Meridian Park Neighborhood Association. So, does anybody in the following categories, does anybody have any ideas about events they would like to see us do? And I will tell you that right now what we're entertaining is being organizing a neighborhood-wide yard sale, tag sale, telling people if they want to have it on a certain day, we will advertise it widely. So hopefully people will come from not only Shoreline but other areas to come and see what's around here. Another thing is some sort of meetup at one of the parks, possibly something another neighborhood is doing called Doggies and Donuts, where we'd have a
That's Highland Terrace.
yes, where we'd set up a tent and we'd have some snacks out there at maybe Cromwell Park or something like that, and people can come by and visit with us, and it's another way to meet people. And then we have the potluck, and then we're also wanting to promote lots of National Night Out parties this year to promote community engagement. But does anybody have any other events they'd like to see?
I'd like to just say that I think this potluck that Kate and the school and everybody now is getting involved with, it strikes me like a great idea. First of all, because we're gonna have people from the school, not just from our little group here, participate, and there's 20 or 30 or something signed up already. And it'll be a great chance, hopefully, for folks to mingle, and it's in the school, and we have this marvelous school there and everything. I think that's a great idea. And it's not, we don't have to start from scratch, so to speak, as if we thought about having a little fire pits at Cromwell and having a sing-along and games for kids and all this kind of stuff, but it was a lot of trouble to get the permission to have fire pits, so it died.
Oh.
Libby, what did you want to say?
Yeah, maybe we can consider some like a kids talent show, something like that.
Oh, a kids talent show.
Yeah, our kids are very creative. They can play a lot of things. Like I'm sure he can play a lot of stuff. If we get them together, then they should show off their talents.
Yeah.
That'd be very interesting to see,
Great.
right?
Anything else?
An idea for donations of canned goods and clothes that people,
Also some books.
and books. So maybe along with the yard sale, if you have stuff that you don't wanna sell and maybe just donate, then that could be kind of your donation drop off.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
So, conjunction with yard sale.
We're supposed to do something interesting around Thanksgiving where each grade is in charge of a different type of canned good, and then they all come together and they make a box for a family. Maybe that's something we could do with other neighborhood associations, like we're in charge of mac and cheese and Echo Lake is in charge of beans and rice, and then at the end we kind of bring everything together and donate it to a shelter.
Are you guys at Meridian Park?
Yeah.
Our neighbors, same
Mhm.
street.
No, but him in the school there.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
Pick one item. Oh, no, no, pick one item. Then, how would I say that? Pick one item.
And create boxes or like goodie bags for shelters.
Okay. Great. Any other?
One thing that we've been sort of kicking around in the board, and it hasn't been something that has materialized, but something in the winter that we could do outside. And the examples that were coming to mind was at Krickelberg, they have the solstice walk, where they have the lights, and it's at night, and they have music, and cider, and a lot of families get together. And then, you know, there's the big thing at Green Lake, the luminary walk around the lake. And so we've been trying to think, is there something that we could do here in our neighborhood that would be like that, like an evening winter event that would just bring people out? And like Tom said, we were talking about doing like a bonfire at Cromwell, but the fire department wouldn't let us do that. But does anyone have any ideas for something that we could do like that in the winter time?
Could be a sky watching.
Skywalker?
Yeah, watching the stars and tell the different stories about the stars, what's galaxies, how
Astronomy party.
science.
Yeah, astronomy party.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to
Yeah.
have someone, you know, really have the knowledge, you know.
Also, I was wondering about maybe, like a lantern making party and then a little parade with the lit lanterns. Is that more along the lines of what you're thinking?
We could do a Christmas lights tour if there's some good streets that have lots of Christmas lights on it, and or maybe set up like have a map for people and they all meet here at City Hall and then go out and tour the different houses.
This might be a little corny, but I used to be a camp counselor in the YMCA,
Okay.
and we would tell the kids stories at night, sometimes stopping them from sleeping. But I wonder if, in addition to a astronomy party, sort of in connection with that, we could have a scary kids storytelling contest.
Yes.
And get some adults out there and maybe kids to sort of spin a yarn for 6 minutes or something, and give a contest and give a prize to the one with the scariest story. Maybe with somebody with a guitar playing in the background ever so quietly. I mean, just
I like that.
there's an NPR program called The Moth on the weekends. You may know about this, and people just get up in New York City or someplace and they tell personalized sort of stories that are quite interesting and often have a broader implication and reflective capability. But just as a thought, you know, get somebody out there with a little energy and corniness and stuff, that'd be kind of fun.
Kids scary story contest with music?
Yeah.
So cover it? Would you do it outdoors or indoors?
Yeah, either way.
Anything else anybody wants to pitch in here?
Just going back to the
Kristen,
astronomy
you got
thing.
something?
We did, we've done this for the last couple of years and are still working on the, the details, but we do a bingo for books. So everybody brings books and, we have, bingo callers, some older, some younger, and different kinds of, the different bingos. You can have up to, 4 cards apiece. But we have some small prizes, and then, if you're a winner of a bingo, then you get to go pick a book. And the books that are left over, get to go to the, they're kind of your seed for the next year's
Book sale.
Swing and Summer book sale.
Oh.
Which is kind of nice. But we've had a nice group. So, and it does give, it's a different type of, aspect of bingo. You don't have to, in the sense the prizes are pretty reasonable. We had Menchie's that donated the ice cream, which is great. And there was some healthful food that was in there as well, so everybody brings a potluck item along with that. It was really fun, and it's a Friday night, and it's pretty low key.
Considering how hard it is to get people away from Shark Tank or The Bachelor or whatever, especially if the weather isn't great, I wonder if we might consider combining some of these things and throwing in some ice cream.
Yeah.
Now, Ridgecrest, of course, has the gigantic ice cream thing. We had a little experience with this at the Somerset deal.
This is what I forgot to thank you for, Tom.
Oh, that was a lot of fun, yeah. And so we
He knows
could, it's
how to
not too
transport ice
expensive, and the question is just keeping it cold long enough so it doesn't melt on you when you're outside the freezer. But
Right.
if we said, okay, we're gonna have a scary story contest, astronomy party, and ice cream all at once, with maybe a little bonfire or something, we get a little kind of camp life going, if we could get permission somewhere, maybe at the little, what do you call that thing, where in Cromwell, where they have the band play? The little band shell thingy, yeah, maybe somewhere around that or something.
Maybe
with
some
20,
caramel corn.
50 people.
It's a festival.
In order to get enough oomph here so that we get some, critical gravity.
Yeah.
I like it.
I think Paramount Park is Ridgecrest, is that right? They have stargazing a few times a year. I've been to it twice. There's an amateur astronomy group with telescopes that come out, and there's usually 8, 10 guys, women with telescopes, and they're just really happy to aim it at something and explain everything.
I've been to
about
one of
what you're
those too,
looking at.
and they were just so eager to explain.
Yeah.
I mean, they spent 1% of the time actually looking at the thing, and 99% of the time telling you how great it is.
Yeah.
It was slightly lost on me, but I appreciated his enthusiasm.
I love all these ideas that everybody has,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry, but we need to call the meeting to a close.
Okay, one other quick thought, if I might. Along with the scary story, since we have people from so many different places, and including Kentucky, and other places, it might be interesting to have another kind of a far-fetched yarn contest, meaning like Huckleberry Finn yarns, and people talk about either where they're from in some sort of peculiar commentary about where they're from that normally you wouldn't think about, that you'd want to sort of bring out, or talk about a unique, not to emphasize this in the wrong direction, unique thing that came up from work, that was a story that had human interest and hopefully proved to be a good thing in the end, or lessons learned that would be of interest to people of varying ages and might even be helpful as sort of life lessons. I'm sure everybody's got lots of little life lessons from getting it to work that you could think about and distill and kind of say, well, this situation came up and I handled it this way, but now 10 years later as I look back on it, it really would be better if I handled it this way. But with a little fun sort of thrown in or something, not to make it a lecture. But yeah, and also the different, people, we got people from all kinds of countries. We took a little trip around Olympic Peninsula the other weekend or so ago, and we just, on the beach, at Ruby Beach, we bumped into this real nice family from, don't tell me, not Ukraine. What's right next to Ukraine, north of Ukraine? Oh God, Belarus. Works for Expedia. fascinating story. And then at the Claylock Lodge, we bumped into a real nice family from South Africa who spent a lot of time in Toronto and Nanaimo, and is now here working with Amazon. And really interesting. I mean, so there's stories to tell, you know, but whatever.
I don't know if Monka Brewery is in the Meridian Park area.
It is not, but it's a lovely little business.
And it's owned by a family that goes to Meridian Park Elementary, so maybe that
Mocha
could be Monka, M-O-N-K-A.
Meet up at Monka?
A meetup at Monka, and they have, I mean, it's kid friendly, and they have lots of board games, and it could be like a game night at Monka, and
Where is that located?
it's on,
15.
yeah, I think it's right across from that Safeway.
Yeah,
Oh, by
south of
Safeway over there.
174.
Okay. Oh,
It's an old veterinarian shop.
Yeah, I've never gone in.
Is it
Oh, I
good,
know
is
what
it
you-
good beer?
Yeah. Mhm.
Have your dogs fixed there.
I know. If you can put aside the thought that many dogs are probably
Mhm.
going
Yeah.
through some traumatic experiences, it's
Yeah.
kind of a nice area.
This is really wonderful, and I really do hate to bring it to a close, but I did
Okay.
promise people
Yeah.
that we would close on time, and
Yeah.
we're 5 minutes past. So thank you so
Okay.
very much for coming tonight.
Thanks for inviting me.